Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 20th May 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Live Mint and it is written by Mr. Vivek Debroy. It is titled A Revival Plan That Addresses with a Namaste and Not a Hi-Fi. So the central argument of this article is that the critics who are criticizing the Self-Reliant India package or the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan package do not understand the fact that this package is trying to indigenously address the issue of economic recovery. So, when the author refers to this plan as something akin to Namaste as a greeting but not a hi-fi, what he is trying to say is we should not try to emulate the Western ideal. Rather, we have to focus on what works for India. So, as a metaphor, he is using Namaste as a plan that is very much relevant to the Indian context, and all the critics he is comparing it to the hi-fi as a greeting because they are influenced by Western thought of what is an economic stimulus or an economic recovery package. Now let us have a look into the Self-Reliant India package that the government came up with in 5 installments. The government announced that it is going to give 10% of GDP as a package to revive the economy. But in reality, it is hardly 1% of direct cash incentive, and everything else is an indirect form of incentive to push supply side reforms. Now, what do you mean by supply side reforms? So, in an economy, there are two sides. One is the supply, and the other is the demand. So, there can be demand, but if there is no supply, the result is hyperinflation because increasing demand is not being met by this supply. Now the other scenario is there is abundant supply but there is no enough demand. The peculiarity about this COVID crisis is that we have both supply side shocks and demand side shocks. Why do I say that we have supply side shocks? Consider the present lockdown scenario. Even if the companies want to produce something, they don't have the wherewithal to produce because of the lockdown situation. Now, why are we talking about demand side slump? Because most of the economic activity has stopped. The companies are not in a position to pay their workers, and because the people don't have enough cash in their hands, there is a demand slump. Now, this peculiar situation requires supply side as well as demand side reforms, but the focus should be initially on supply side reforms because unless and until we ensure that resources are efficiently used in long term, there cannot be a alternative. If we keep on putting money into the hands of the public, it will be a wastage of resources. However, the government has taken care that economic stimulus reaches the most vulnerable. Therefore, the author believes that the increase in Manrega budget, that is from the budget at 60 lakhs to present 1.1 lakh crores, is a sign that the government is committed to give money to the most vulnerable sections. However, that is not sufficient according to the critics. Now let us consider this scenario. If we want to have a sustainable future, unless and until we clear the issues which is stopping multinational companies and various other MSME sector, which is the major employer in our country, to iron out these issues and ensure that resources are efficiently used, will not be in a position to increase our jobs. So if we are not in a position to increase our jobs, ultimately it will again affect the demand situation, and again demand slump will come forward. So in order to avoid this situation, the government has decided that this is the most opportune time to go ahead with reforms. Now, what kind of reforms are we talking about? If we take a close look at our country from a sociological standpoint, we have two different countries if we look at it. The way our country has reacted to this lockdown situation gives us a close insight about how our country is divided upon classes. So, on one end of the spectrum, we have the ultra rich who did not have any sort of problem during this lockdown, and they saw this lockdown as an opportunity for a vacation with their families. But on the other hand, we have seen some very heart-wrenching images of migrants who were trying to walk to their homes thousands of kilometers away from their workplace. The treatment meted out to this poor segment of the population also shows us the treatment we are traditionally giving them. So it is not a one-time event that has culminated into this catastrophe for the migrant labor. So how do we handle this situation? Yes, the economic package that the government has announced does not make the rich happy, but the government has rightly recognized that in order to see economic growth, we have to empower the poor. Now, how do you empower the poor? If you take a look at the rural segment, a majority of the population is still dependent upon agriculture in its most rudimentary form. Even though there is a possibility for agri exports, there is a huge potential for improvement with the cold storage facilities. With respect to value addition to our food products, there is a huge scope for food processing industry. India has a coastline that is almost equal to nearly 10,000 kilometers. So we are not utilizing this exclusive economic zones and improving the capacities of our coastal communities. So given these facts, the excessive emphasis on the service sector has distorted our growth patterns and had a sociological impact. Recognizing this, the government decided to opt for a pro-rural approach in our economic package. So this is the reality that we have to understand. Secondly, the rich is not happy because they did not get tax stops for sectors like say hospitality industry or tourism industry or even aviation industry. If we actually try to bail out every simple sector just because of this lockdown, we are failing to realize that this present lockdown has impacted every sector. So the government cannot actually sit down and address each and every sector like in other countries. The simple fact is that if we take a look at our debt to GDP ratio, and even before this COVID-19 situation, our GDP growth has been falling down continuously for various quarters. The reason is because of these supply side constraints where the jobs are not being created on par with that rising demand. So one of the major reasons cited for this is lack of factor market reforms. And there is a global scenario to this entire situation as well. The US-China trade war has been impacting our economic progress, and the country was not really in a position to take the place of China. We had better countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, which actually took the chunk of the markets away from India. When the US-China trade war broke out, India was not able to capture this scene. The major reason being factor market reforms. Now, what are these factor market reforms? Reforms that relate to labor, capital, and land. Land is an issue that is majorly with the states. Hence, cooperative federalism becomes very important in this situation. The next factor was that of capital, and the government has been doing everything in its hands to ensure that insolvency issues can be addressed. Government came up with the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 to address this very situation, and also the governance reforms to handle the non-performing assets in our banks is also a case to the point. Now we were left with labor reforms, and it is in this context that the government came up with various codes with respect to labor. So this is a point that is a valid argument, because we have to balance between the rights of the workers and the needs of our economy. The supply side constraints should be eased out to that extent where the workers are not being exploited. That is what we have to take into consideration. So this is the situation. The reason why the rich are not happy is because the emphasis has shifted away from them. We are not talking about corporate tax. The government has done already whatever it could in the last year itself. Last year we have actually reduced our corporate tax. We have let go of revenue to the tune of almost 80,000 crores. Therefore, the critics who criticize that probably the poor should have got more money into their accounts should not forget the fact that the government is facing an unprecedented crunch in tax revenue. We don't have enough money. Yet, the finance minister has actually considered the fact that we are going for monetization of our deficit somewhere down the line if it is needed. So, unless and until the rural demand picks up, there is no scope for economic revival. That is what this author is trying to say. The second article for the day is taken from the Indian Express and it is titled Financing the Stimulus. So, this article is about the impact of disinvestment on raising revenue sources for the government and how it can contain the fiscal deficit in our present times. As a part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan package, the government announced that in its new public sector enterprises policy, it is going to privatize almost all the public sector entities except a few strategic companies that would remain in business. So, even last year, the government of India was trying to raise revenue through privatization, and in 2019, the government wanted to privatize BPCL. It also wanted to privatize Air India and Concor, our shipping company. So, apart from these, the government is trying to raise more revenue by taking the privatization route. However, there are certain caveats with this approach. Let us have a look at them. The first problem is most often it is the profit making entities that will be actually sold at a good price. It is highly unlikely that every public sector entity is a profit making entity, and therefore the price discovered for these companies will be pretty low. Secondly, we have to consider this equation. Privatization is a two-way street. It means that we need a buyer as well as seller. Now, who will be these buyers in the time of this demand slump? That is the question that most economists are trying to raise. The reason why buyers were not really interested or keen in investing in these public sector entities, or to that matter, even doing normal business, is one, the policy uncertainty. We have had this historical legacy where one government tries to come up with a policy and the successive government, which is usually the opposition, tries to topple that policy and come up with a new policy. This creates a lot of issues for the businessmen who are functioning in our territory. Secondly, there is a problem of political interference, and especially in sectors where they are considered too big to fail, there is excessive political interference. So, there are a very few Indian capitalists who are already at the closest point where financially and politically they are willing to buy these public sector entities because they know how to play the game. But here is the risk. We are virtually giving away all our companies to monopolies or oligopolies. So if this is the case, the entire economy would be run by a few monopolies, which is definitely not good for our economic health in the long term. The government has also looked at taxing fuel when there is a global demand slump, but this is a very temporary situation. The government imposed additional taxes while global crude oil prices fell, as oil prices can only go up after the last round of negotiations between Russia and Saudi Arabia, which were in a kind of a war to increase their production to eat away into the markets of each other, eventually leading to a slump in global demand for oil because of the lockdown situation and the falling prices. So the government decided to take advantage of this situation of oil war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. However, even this will not be successful in the long time, because once Russia and Saudi Arabia come to a negotiation, the prices will be back to normal. So, such a move would contradict the very idea of a relief and stimulus package, because right now we are taxing petrol and diesel, and we are actually using that resources to fund the COVID 19 activities. That will not be possible for a long time to come. So, given uncertainties like this, in our country, the investment rate has hardly gone up beyond 30% in a significant amount of time in our last 25 years of 25-30 years of our economic history. So, given all these scenarios, privatization, even though not the best of routes, has been opted by the government. Let us see how much success we will have on this front. So, if you take a look at the positive side of Indian economy right now, we have record levels of foreign exchange. So, how much foreign exchange can we use can be decided as we progress forward. But the rest of the money should definitely come from privatization, loans, and international aid. That is the gist of this article.